What if I told you that just a few seconds before takeoff, a single mistake nearly turned an ordinary flight into a disaster? Hundreds of passengers were sitting inside the aircraft, completely unaware that something had already gone terribly wrong. The engines were screaming at full power, the runway was disappearing beneath the wheels, and the pilots had only seconds to make a life-changing decision. One wrong move could have ended in tragedy. But what really happened at Belgrade Airport? Was it pilot error, a technical problem, or something nobody expected? Stay with me until the end because this incredible story reveals every dramatic moment of one of the most shocking takeoff incidents ever recreated in X-Plane 11. The evening looked perfect at Belgrade Airport. The sun was slowly disappearing below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. Runway lights illuminated the pavement as aircraft arrived and departed on schedule. Air traffic controllers calmly guided flights while passengers inside the terminal waited for their boarding announcements. Everything appeared completely normal. Among the aircraft preparing for departure was an Air Serbia Airbus A319. The narrow-body jet had already completed several successful flights earlier that day. Engineers had inspected the aircraft, the fuel tanks were filled, passengers had boarded, and the cabin crew had finished their safety checks. Inside the cockpit, the captain carefully reviewed the departure briefing. Sitting beside him, the first officer confirmed every checklist item. Flight instruments showed normal indications. Weather reports predicted calm winds with excellent visibility. It seemed like another routine departure. Meanwhile, inside the cabin, passengers settled into their seats. Some looked out the windows, watching airport vehicles move across the apron. Others listened to music, read magazines, or texted family members before switching their phones to airplane mode. Children excitedly pointed toward other aircraft outside. Few people realize how many detailed procedures happen before every takeoff. Pilots don't simply push the throttles forward and fly away. Every switch, every instrument, every warning light, and every flight computer must be carefully checked. Modern airliners rely on hundreds of systems working together perfectly. The Airbus A319 is equipped with advanced fly-by-wire technology. Unlike older aircraft, the pilot's controls send electronic signals to onboard computers rather than directly moving the control surfaces. These computers constantly monitor the aircraft and help prevent dangerous maneuvers. They are among the reasons modern aviation has become incredibly safe. At Belgrade Airport, the crew requested permission to start taxiing. Air Serbia, taxi to runway. The clearance arrived immediately. The aircraft slowly pushed back from the gate. Its engines hummed steadily as the tug disconnected. Taxi lights illuminated the pavement ahead while the captain carefully steered toward the assigned runway. Airport ground vehicles crossed nearby intersections. Fuel trucks returned to service roads. Other aircraft waited patiently for departure. Everything moved with remarkable precision. During taxi, pilots perform another series of critical checks. Flight controls are tested. Navigation systems are verified. Brake temperatures are monitored. Flaps are extended to the correct takeoff setting. Each item is confirmed aloud between both pilots. Nothing unusual appeared. As the aircraft approached the holding point, the control tower instructed the crew to wait while another arriving airplane landed safely. Several minutes passed. Finally, the runway became clear. Air Serbia, line up and wait. The captain acknowledged the instruction and slowly guided the aircraft onto the center line. Ahead stretched thousands of meters of illuminated runway disappearing into the evening sky. Inside the cockpit, both pilots completed the final before takeoff checklist. Cabin crew members secured the cabin. Passengers fastened their seatbelts. The engines continued idling quietly. Then the clearance everyone had been waiting for arrived. Air Serbia, cleared for takeoff. The captain gently advanced the throttles. Seconds later, both engines reached takeoff thrust. The aircraft surged forward. Acceleration quickly pushed passengers back into their seats. The runway lights rushed past faster and faster. Inside the cockpit, both pilots continuously monitored engine performance. 80 knots. Checked. V1. At this exact speed, rejecting the takeoff becomes extremely dangerous unless an emergency occurs. Rotate. The captain gently pulled back on the side stick. The nose lifted smoothly. Everything appeared perfect. But then, a loud vibration suddenly echoed through the aircraft. Several passengers immediately looked toward the windows. Some felt an unusual shaking beneath their feet. The first officer glanced at the engine instruments. All readings still appeared normal. The captain continued climbing. Within seconds, another vibration struck the aircraft. This one felt stronger. The control column required slightly more correction than expected. The crew exchanged quick looks. Something didn't feel right. Although no major warning messages appeared, experienced airline pilots know that unusual sensations should never be ignored. The first officer began carefully scanning every display. Hydraulic systems. Normal. Oil pressure. Normal. Fuel flow. Normal. Electrical systems. Normal. Yet the vibration continued. Outside, the aircraft climbed above Belgrade as city lights sparkled below. Passengers remained unaware of what was happening inside the cockpit. Most believed the slight shaking was completely normal. But the pilots knew otherwise. Modern aircraft are designed to communicate problems instantly through sophisticated monitoring systems. However, not every issue triggers an immediate warning. Some problems reveal themselves only through experience, observation, and subtle changes in aircraft behavior. The captain decided not to panic. Instead, he reduced the climb rate slightly while continuing to analyze the situation. Air traffic control noticed the aircraft wasn't climbing exactly as expected. The controller radioed the crew. "Air Serbia, confirm everything is normal?" There was a brief pause. The captain answered calmly. "We may have a minor technical issue. We'd like to maintain present altitude while we evaluate." The controller immediately understood the seriousness. Other departing traffic was instructed to maintain separation. Emergency services quietly entered a standby position near the runway. Inside the cabin, passengers remained calm. Flight attendants continued reassuring everyone with professional smiles. No announcement had been made yet. The crew first needed to determine whether this was a temporary vibration, or the beginning of something much more serious. And what they discovered over the next few minutes would completely change the flight. It would force the crew into one of the most critical decisions any airline pilot can face. That decision, and whether everyone would make it safely back to the ground, is what happens next. Inside the cockpit, silence filled the air for only a few seconds. The captain and first officer both understood that every decision from this moment forward had to be made with precision. Although the aircraft was still flying normally, the unusual vibration had not disappeared. Instead, it seemed to become more noticeable whenever the engines produced higher thrust. The captain took control of the situation. "Let's run the abnormal checklist." The first officer immediately opened the electronic flight bag and began reviewing every possible cause. Modern Airbus aircraft are designed with detailed emergency procedures, allowing pilots to diagnose problems step by step instead of making rushed decisions. One by one, they examined the possibilities. Engine failure? No. Hydraulic malfunction? Negative. Electrical fault? Everything normal. Bird strike? No indication. Landing gear? Still showing locked in the retracted position. Yet the vibration continued. Outside the cockpit windows, Belgrade slowly disappeared behind the aircraft as it flew into the evening sky. The passengers had no idea that every instrument inside the cockpit was being watched with complete concentration. The captain contacted air traffic control again. "Belgrade Tower, Air Serbia requests vectors. We'd like to remain close to the airport while troubleshooting." The controller answered immediately. "Air Serbia, turn left heading 270. You are cleared to remain in the area. Emergency vehicles are standing by." The professionalism between pilots and controllers became critical. Nobody panicked. Every instruction was calm and precise. Meanwhile, the cabin crew noticed that the aircraft wasn't continuing its normal climb. One senior flight attendant called the cockpit. "Captain, cabin secure. Passengers are calm." The captain replied quietly. "We have a minor technical issue. Please keep everyone seated and prepare the cabin in case we need to return." Without alarming anyone, the cabin crew began reviewing emergency procedures. They checked exits, secured loose equipment, and calmly observed the passengers. Most travelers continued reading, sleeping, or looking through the windows. A few noticed the aircraft making a wide turn instead of continuing toward its destination, but nobody imagined the seriousness of the situation. Back in the cockpit, another clue appeared. The first officer noticed a slight fluctuation in one engine's vibration indicator. It was still within acceptable limits. But it wasn't stable. The captain immediately understood. If that vibration increases, continuing the flight isn't worth the risk. Safety always comes before schedules. Airline pilots are trained that reaching the destination is never more important than bringing everyone home safely. After several more minutes of monitoring, the crew reached the same conclusion. Returning to Belgrade Airport was the safest option. Belgrade Tower, Air Serbia is declaring pan-pan. We'd like to return for landing due to abnormal engine vibration. Unlike a full Mayday emergency, a pan-pan call informs air traffic control that the aircraft has an urgent situation requiring priority but is not yet in immediate danger. The controller responded instantly. Air Serbia, understood. You have priority. Turn heading 090. Descend to 3,000 feet. Runway is available. As the aircraft turned back toward the airport, emergency crews positioned themselves alongside the runway. Fire trucks. Medical teams. Airport rescue vehicles. Everyone prepared for the possibility that the landing could become much more complicated. Inside the cabin, the captain finally addressed the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. As a precaution, we've decided to return to Belgrade due to a technical indication. The aircraft remains fully controllable, and there is no immediate danger. Our cabin crew is trained for situations like this. Please remain seated with your seat belts fastened." The announcement created concern throughout the cabin. Some passengers exchanged worried looks. Others quietly held their loved ones' hands. A few looked out the windows searching for signs of trouble. Despite the tension, the calm voice of the captain helped prevent panic. Professional communication can make an enormous difference during unexpected situations. As the aircraft approached the airport, the crew completed another landing briefing. Landing distance. Confirmed. Braking system. Checked. Flaps. Selected. Landing gear. Down. 3 green lights confirmed the landing gear was fully locked. Everything appeared ready. The runway lights stretched ahead like a glowing path leading safely back home. The captain disconnected the autopilot. From this point onward, he wanted to feel every movement of the aircraft personally. Small corrections kept the Airbus perfectly aligned with the runway centerline. Wind remained light. Visibility remained excellent. The vibration was still present. But it had not become worse. 1,000. Stable. 500. Stable. Approaching minimums. Minimum. Landing. The aircraft crossed the runway threshold. Passengers held their breath. The captain gently raised the nose. Main landing gear touched first. A firm but controlled touchdown. Spoilers deployed immediately. Reverse thrust activated. The engines roared. Powerful brakes slowed the aircraft rapidly. For several tense seconds everyone waited. Would the aircraft remain under control? It did. The Airbus rolled safely down the runway before gradually slowing to taxi speed. Inside the cockpit, both pilots finally smiled. "We're stopped." The controller transmitted congratulations. "Air Serbia, welcome back. Emergency vehicles will inspect your aircraft." Fire trucks followed alongside as the aircraft slowly taxied. Engineers soon discovered the source of the problem. A mechanical issue had caused abnormal engine vibration during takeoff. Although it had not developed into a catastrophic failure, continuing the flight could have increased the risk significantly. Because the crew recognized the warning signs early and followed every standard operating procedure exactly as trained, the situation never became an accident. Passengers later left the aircraft safely, many thanking the pilots and cabin crew for their professionalism. Most never realized how close they had come to facing a much more dangerous situation. This event serves as a powerful reminder that aviation safety depends on preparation, teamwork, discipline, and thousands of hours of training. Pilots are not judged by how many perfect flights they complete, but by how professionally they handle the unexpected. Today's commercial aircraft are among the safest machines ever built, but even the most advanced technology cannot replace human judgment. In the end, it was experience, calm decision-making, and strict adherence to procedures that brought every passenger safely back to Belgrade. Disclaimer: this story is inspired by aviation procedures and presented as an X-Plane 11 simulation for educational and entertainment purposes. Certain events and dialogue have been dramatized and should not be interpreted as an official accident report or a factual reconstruction of a real-world incident.